ਸਤਿ ਸ਼੍ਰੀ ਅਕਾਲ ਸਵਾਗਤ ਹੈ ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਸਾਰਿਆਂ ਦਾ ਹੈਡਲਾਈਨ ਕੈਨੇਡਾ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਕੈਨੇਡਾ ਤੋਂ ਕੋਵਿਡ-19 ਅਪਡੇਟਸ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਮੈਂ ਰੁਪਿੰਦਰ ਇੱਕ ਵਾਰੀ ਫੇਰ ਤੋਂ ਹਾਜ਼ਰ ਹਾਂ ਕੈਨੇਡਾ ਵਿੱਚ ਕੋਵਿਡ-19 ਕੇਸਿਸ ਦਾ ਅੰਕੜਾ 94,000 ਤੋਂ ਉੱਪਰ ਹੋ ਚੁੱਕਾ ਹੈ ਇਸ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਹੀ ਪ੍ਰਧਾਨ ਮੰਤਰੀ ਵੱਲੋਂ ਅੱਜ ਕੈਨੇਡੀਅਨ ਵਿਦ ਡਿਸੇਬਿਲਿਟੀਜ਼ ਲਈ ਕੁਝ ਖਾਸ ਐਲਾਨ ਕੀਤੇ ਗਏ ਨੇ ਹੋਰ ਕੀ ਕੁਝ ਰਿਹਾ ਖਾਸ ਐਸੇ ਤੇ ਰਹੇਗੀ ਨਜ਼ਰ ਅੱਜ ਹੈਡਲਾਈਨ ਕੈਨੇਡਾ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਪ੍ਰਧਾਨ ਮੰਤਰੀ ਜਸਟਿਨ ਟਰੂਡੋ ਨੇ ਅੱਜ ਇੱਕ ਵਾਰੀ ਫਿਰ ਤੋਂ ਨੇਸ਼ਨ ਨੂੰ ਐਡਰੈਸ ਕੀਤਾ ਅਤੇ ਅੱਜ ਦਾ ਖਾਸ ਐਲਾਨ ਸੀਗਾ ਕੈਨੇਡੀਅਨਸ ਵਿਦ ਡਿਸੇਬਿਲਿਟੀ ਲਈ ਜਿਨ੍ਹਾਂ ਕੋਲ ਡਿਸੇਬਿਲਿਟੀ ਸਰਟੀਫਿਕੇਟ ਹੈਗਾ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਵਨ ਟਾਈਮ ਟੈਕਸ ਫ੍ਰੀ ਪੇਮੈਂਟ $600 ਦਾ ਐਲਾਨ ਕੀਤਾ ਗਿਆ ਹੈ
No matter who you are, COVID-19 will have had an impact on you in one way or another because everyone has been affected by this pandemic. And as we mark National Accessibility Week, we're reminded that some people have been hit especially hard. Whether it's buying PPE or covering the cost of support workers, many Canadians with disabilities are facing unexpected bills that can be hard to pay. To help cover these costs, today I can announce that we are introducing a one-time non-taxable payment of up to $600 for Canadians with disabilities. And we're not stopping there. We're also establishing a national workplace accessibility stream to help people with disabilities find and keep a good job. And we're funding 5 new projects across the country that will help people get supportive devices to overcome barriers in the workplace.
ਇਸ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਹੀ ਪ੍ਰਧਾਨ ਮੰਤਰੀ ਨੇ ਇਹ ਵੀ ਦੱਸਿਆ ਕਿ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਵੱਖ-ਵੱਖ ਸੂਬਿਆਂ ਦੇ ਪ੍ਰੀਮੀਅਰਸ ਨਾਲ ਮੁਲਾਕਾਤ ਹੋਈ ਹੈ ਅਤੇ ਇੱਕ ਸੇਫ ਰੀਓਪਨਿੰਗ ਐਗਰੀਮੈਂਟ ਤੇ ਕੰਮ ਕੀਤਾ ਜਾ ਰਿਹਾ ਹੈ ਜਿਸ ਦੇ ਤਹਿਤ $14 ਬਿਲੀਅਨ ਦੀ ਪੇਸ਼ਕਸ਼ ਵੀ ਕੀਤੀ ਗਈ ਹੈ
We know that the provinces and territories are under a lot of pressure right now and are facing real financial challenges because of this pandemic. And we want to help as much as possible. We must move quickly and carefully to get this done, to support the services Canadians rely on, and to get our communities back up and running. That's why our government has already taken action across the board on this restart. And now we're making a substantial offer to keep supporting this work. Yesterday, at our 12th First Ministers' meeting since this crisis began, I brought our government's commitment to the table. The federal government is ready to contribute $14 billion more for the things that all Canadians need. As you go back to work, we want to make sure you are protected wherever you are. Here's what the Premiers and I will work on for a safe restart agreement, which would cover the next critical 6 to 8 months. We're talking about more personal protective equipment for healthcare workers on the front lines so they can focus on saving lives instead of worrying about their safety. We're talking about making sure businesses have the PPE they need so that every Canadian is safe on the job no matter where in the country they go back to work. We're talking about childcare, so that every parent knows there's a safe place for their kids. Because when mums and dads get back to work, they shouldn't have to worry about how their kids are doing. We all know that there are too many seniors who've gotten sick from COVID-19. And along with our elders, there are many people who are especially at risk if they get the virus. So we want to provide immediate assistance so that the most vulnerable are protected. We're also talking about sick pay of up to 10 days for workers who currently don't have benefits. The federal government would provide the funds needed to make this happen. And we're talking about support for cities and municipalities so that when Canadians get back to work, they can count on the services they need, like public transit and community programs. I'm looking forward to working with the Premiers to make this happen.
ਉਧਰ ਓਨਟਾਰੀਓ ਦੇ ਪ੍ਰੀਮੀਅਰ ਡਗ ਫੋਰਡ ਨੇ ਪ੍ਰਧਾਨ ਮੰਤਰੀ ਵੱਲੋਂ ਪ੍ਰੀਮੀਅਰਸ ਨਾਲ ਕੀਤੀ ਜਾ ਰਹੀ ਗੱਲਬਾਤ ਦਾ ਸਵਾਗਤ ਕੀਤਾ ਹੈ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਕਿਹਾ ਕਿ ਸੇਫ ਰੀਸਟਾਰਟ ਐਗਰੀਮੈਂਟ ਸੰਬੰਧੀ ਜੋ ਗੱਲਬਾਤ ਚੱਲ ਰਹੀ ਹੈ ਅਸੀਂ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦਾ ਸਵਾਗਤ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਪਰ ਓਨਟਾਰੀਓ ਨੂੰ ਆਪਣੇ ਪੈਰਾਂ ਤੇ ਖੜੇ ਹੋਣ ਲਈ $23 ਬਿਲੀਅਨ ਦੀ ਲੋੜ ਹੈਗੀ ਹੈ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਕਿਹਾ ਕਿ ਫੈਡਰਲ ਸਰਕਾਰ ਵੱਲੋਂ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਮਦਦ ਕੀਤੀ ਜਾ ਰਹੀ ਹੈ ਅਸੀਂ ਉਸ ਦਾ ਧੰਨਵਾਦ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਪਰ ਇਹ ਇੱਕ ਸ਼ੁਰੂਆਤ ਹੈ ਤੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਉਮੀਦ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਅੱਗੇ ਚੱਲ ਕੇ ਫੈਡਰਲ ਸਰਕਾਰ ਵੱਖ-ਵੱਖ ਸੂਬਿਆਂ ਦੀ ਲੋੜੀਂਦੀ ਮਦਦ ਜ਼ਰੂਰ ਕਰੇਗੀ
The economic reality we're facing is unprecedented, and no province can get out of this alone. And for months, Canada's premiers have shared these concerns with our federal partners. We've made it very clear that we need them at the table. In Ontario alone, we estimate that it could cost up to $23 billion to deal with the impacts of COVID-19 and safely reopen the economy. That estimates include healthcare costs tied to COVID-19 response, funding for needed supply of PPE, funding for municipalities, supporting our most vulnerable in long-term care and child care costs to support families. In short, there's a massive need in Ontario, up to $23 billion. And we've made it very clear and a full ask to the federal government. We're ready to work with them, and I know they're ready to work with us too. And today's announcement from the federal government, it must be the start of the conversation, not the end. We've identified up to $23 billion in costs for Ontario alone and $14 billion for the whole country. It's a start, it's a good start, and I thank the Prime Minister for his support. But the reality is, we have a $23 billion problem in Ontario and $14 billion for all of Canada. It won't solve the problem. $14 billion for all of Canada just won't cut it. And I'm committed to working with the federal government on this. And today's job numbers demonstrate that we can't find Band-Aid solutions to the massive issues we will face in the coming months. Our path to a strong economic recovery cannot happen without a strong healthcare system to support it. And Ontario taxpayers send $13 billion more to the federal government each year than we get back in federal transfers and services. And during these unprecedented times, through these unprecedented challenges, we're asking for just our fair share of that money. We need that contribution for critical investments, and we need the flexibility to fund our most pressing priorities, because every province has their own needs. We need a sustained long-term commitment. Our frontline healthcare workers are counting on it. Our municipalities are counting on it. And our long-term care residents are counting on it. And we can't do it alone. We need the federal government's help on this.
ਇਸ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਹੀ ਪ੍ਰੀਮੀਅਰ ਡਗਫੋਰਡ ਨੇ ਇਹ ਵੀ ਕਿਹਾ ਕਿ ਇਕੋਨਮੀ ਨੂੰ ਗ੍ਰੈਜੂਅਲੀ ਰੀਓਪਨ ਕੀਤਾ ਜਾ ਰਿਹਾ ਹੈ ਤੇ ਆਉਂਦੇ ਹਫ਼ਤੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਸਟੇਜ 2 ਦਾ ਪਲਾਨ ਐਲਾਨਿਆ ਜਾਏਗਾ ਤੇ ਗਾਈਡਲਾਈਨਸ ਨੂੰ ਮੰਨਦਿਆਂ ਹੋਇਆਂ ਹੀ ਗ੍ਰੈਜੂਅਲੀ ਰੀਓਪਨਿੰਗ ਕੀਤੀ ਜਾਏਗੀ।
Early next week, we'll share more details about stage 2 of the reopening of our province. To be clear, stage 2 will not begin immediately. We'll be giving notice to businesses to start getting ready. Next week, we'll also lay out a phased plan for reopening childcare safely and gradually so we can support parents as they return to work. I know the people of Ontario, you've been very, very patient. And as much as stage 2 will be focused on getting people back to work, it is also about finding ways to try to get life back to normal this summer, even if it's a little different than before. I'm looking forward to sharing more details early next week.
With stage 1 of the reopening of the province underway and more people returning to work, the Ontario government continues to support businesses and workers impacted by the COVID-19 outbreak. Today's job numbers show that our province's economy is beginning to stabilize. Statistics Canada data indicates that Ontario has regained 13,700 manufacturing jobs and thousands of jobs in the construction, food services, real estate, finance, and resource sectors. However, there is no doubt that the COVID-19 pandemic is having an ongoing impact on Ontario's economy, and real people, families, business owners, and workers continue to struggle. Through our Ontario Jobs and Recovery Committee, we are working hand in hand with business leaders to help them get through this difficult period. Our lines of communication with Ontario's business community and workers has always been open, and never more so than right now. And we've heard loud and clear, COVID-19 has changed the landscape, and we must work together. Throughout this time, Ontario's business community has continued to step up and demonstrate the best of the Ontario spirit to strengthen our supply of much-needed PPE. Through the Ontario Together portal and the Ontario Together Fund, We have mobilized Ontario's manufacturing might. More than 25,000 submissions have been received, resulting in over 17,000 emergency supplies leads that have been converted into more than $230 million in purchases. In growing numbers each day, we are seeing businesses helping businesses, frontline workers, and communities with Made in Ontario solutions. We have a solid foundation on which to build our future and emerge stronger than ever. We have the right framework to further reopen the economy in a safe way. We have the right guidelines to protect workers. We're going to get Ontario working again as quickly and safely as possible.
ਹੈਡਲਾਈਨ ਕੈਨੇਡਾ ਵਿੱਚ ਫਿਲਹਾਲ ਸਮਾਂ ਹੋ ਗਿਆ ਇੱਕ ਬ੍ਰੇਕ ਦਾ। ਬ੍ਰੇਕ ਤੋਂ ਬਾਅਦ ਸਾਡੀ ਇਹ ਖਾਸ ਪੇਸ਼ਕਸ਼ ਜਾਰੀ ਰਹੇਗੀ। ਤੁਸੀਂ ਬਣੇ ਰਹੋ ਸਾਡੇ ਨਾਲ। ਬ੍ਰੇਕ ਤੋਂ ਬਾਅਦ ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਸਵਾਗਤ ਹੈ। ਬੀਤੇ ਦਿਨੀ ਕੈਨੇਡਾ ਰੋਡ ਸੇਫਟੀ ਵੀਕ ਦੇ ਦੌਰਾਨ ਟੋਰਾਂਟੋ ਪੁਲਿਸ ਵੱਲੋਂ 3100 ਟ੍ਰੈਫਿਕ ਟਿਕਟਸ ਇਸ਼ੂ ਕੀਤੀਆਂ ਗਈਆਂ ਨੇ। ਐਸੇ ਸੰਬੰਧੀ ਗੱਲਬਾਤ ਕਰਨ ਲਈ ਸਾਡੇ ਨਾਲ ਜੁੜ ਰਹੇ ਨੇ ਟੋਰਾਂਟੋ ਪੁਲਿਸ ਦਾ ਕਾਂਸਟੇਬਲ ਜਿਨਕਾਰਲੋ ਮੈਰੇਲੀ। ਹੈਲੋ ਕਾਂਸਟੇਬਲ ਐਂਡ ਥੈਂਕ ਯੂ ਸੋ ਮਚ ਫॉर ਟੇਕਿੰਗ ਆਊਟ time for PTC.
No problem. Thank you very much for having me again on the show.
We would like to know, as a result of this pandemic, there is a lesser traffic volume on the roads, due to which we are seeing the drivers, they are speeding up. During the Canada Road Safety Week, Toronto Police have issued 3,100 traffic tickets. How Toronto Police is making sure to enforce the laws and educate the drivers?
Yes, of course. So you are correct. Ever since the pandemic has started, we've noticed a huge huge decrease in traffic. At one point, we were under 50%. Slowly but surely, we've been creeping up back to about 65% now. Now, what we've noticed, of course, the more open roads. When there's more open roads, that means more time and more distance actually to take advantage of. And we've noticed a huge increase, unfortunately, in our speeding tickets. Between the days of March 15th to May 27th, about 2.5 months, we've noticed an increase in our speeding tickets of over 7,000 tickets. Was a difference from this year to last year. So we've seen a huge number. And not only just the regular speeding, we also seen people stunt driving. So we're looking at people that are exceeding the speed limit by 50 kilometers an hour or more. We've seen an increase of 300 tickets. So out of those 300 tickets, that means 300 vehicles were actually seized off the roadways for 7 days. They lost their license for 7 days. So we're not talking about an easy 15 or 20 kilometers over the speed limit. We were noticing huge amounts of people over and above excessively speeding. So we understand that the roads are open. Drivers need to remind themselves, you don't need to take advantage of that. You need to slow yourself down, use the extra space as a cushion just in case to redirect yourself if there's something in front of you. So we've seen an increase. They've slowly they have been ever since the increase of traffic. There has been a decreased number in the speeding tickets, but we're still seeing people obviously taking advantage of the open roads. Your second part of the question there, the pandemic. Yes, we are combating the speeding. That we are still having our Vision Zero callbacks. We do have officers strictly assigned to enforce the Highway Traffic Act. So these officers are not only just out there enforcing traffic, they're intelligent led, meaning that we are given research and saying, okay, these are the areas that are affected by speeders. We are in that area, flooding that area with these officers. So it's not just one area, it's throughout the city. So every day they do change locations. So if you see an officer enforcing traffic at, say, Steeles and Yonge, the next day they could be at Lakeshore and Jameson. So they're going to be throughout the city. We continue doing this. They're out there 6 out of the 7 days, constantly enforcing the Highway Traffic Act. Even more so, officers are not receiving as many phone calls for service on regular dispatch calls. And they are also taking advantage of the traffic and enforcing the traffic on their downtime as well. So it's not just those officers in those areas, it's throughout the whole city.
And this year theme was shifting the gear of the Canada Road Safety Week. What does this theme exactly means?
Shifting the gear is actually more of changing your behavior. You know, we're so used to doing one thing one way, such as always using your cell phone when you're driving. Change the gears, change your behavior. You know what? Tell yourself, this is where I'm going to start changing my lifestyle, putting that phone away, concentrate on the road, which you should be, and avoid all those distractions. Same thing with speeding. You know what? Watch your speed limit. Start to slow down. Start leaving earlier. So because traffic in Toronto and actually anywhere that you look nowadays, there's so much traffic out there. So you need to allocate your time and leave that much earlier. Don't try to make up that time on the roads and say, okay, you know what? I'm gonna speed by an extra 15 or 20 kilometers an hour to make up that lost time. So prepare when you are going to look at we're going to work or wherever you're going to go. Leave that extra time just in case the what ifs.
As the weather is changing now and we are seeing more motorcycles on the roads, what do you advise for the other drivers?
So when it comes to motorcycles, now being the person in the vehicle itself as a car, leave that extra room, give them that extra space for the motorcyclist to maneuver. You know, don't tailgate. You know, communicate your actions. You know, if you're going to make a lane change, you see someone behind you, you know, make sure you're communicating with everybody around you. These motorcycles can't stop as quickly as vehicles, and all they have is leather between them and the vehicle. So unlike a car, you have airbags, you have steel around you, you have your seatbelt. These motorcycles strictly have a helmet and their gear, which is more than not is leathers. So with the drivers, be courteous. You know, if you're going to make that left-hand turn, make sure you see well ahead, because these motorcycles can be lost because they're one of the smaller motor vehicles on the roadway. So you're making that left-hand turn. Just don't focus on oncoming traffic, such as another vehicle traffic as a car, and not look at the pedestrian, but also look at, hey, that could be a motorcycle. Let me just make sure, double check, triple check to make sure. Now, unfortunately, when it comes to motorcycles, yes, the weather is getting better. We are seeing more motorcycles on the road, which is great. We have seen an unfortunate increase in our motorcycle fatalities. Out of our 12 fatalities that we have currently, 4 of them have been motorcycle riders. So these are, unfortunately, represents over 30% of our fatalities. So this is something we need to visit and see why are these things happening. So if you are a rider, you know, make sure you are doing the things that are proper. Follow the road signs. Make sure you follow the speed limits. Make sure you're comfortable with the bike you have. Make sure the maintenance is up to date. You know, make sure your helmet fits properly. So there's so many factors as a rider, and your head has to be on a swivel, looking back and forth, looking for cross traffic, almost like predicting and being ready for the unexpected. Or some people are riding over their experience or their ability. They're thinking, hey, I know how to ride this thing. I've read it, you know, I've had it for a year. I think I'm able to do the tricks and stunts that I'm able to do. But people are getting caught up in that. And so unfortunately, people are losing their lives because of this. So, you know, if you are a rider, make sure your ability, your skills are up to date and you're able to operate that motor vehicle or that motorcycle safely.
Well, Constable, thank you for that advice. Coming to the other issue, as there are protests today in Toronto and in light to the recent events in Canada, will the process of the body cameras with the Toronto police speed up? Because we have seen Toronto police have been examining this from several years now.
So my only involvement really was back in the day, a few years back, the Toronto Police Service actually allocated 4 divisions to actually take part of the trial process. And so out of the trial, I'm assuming that things looked very well and it was uplifting. So as the chief said yesterday, they are looking to speed up the process, and there's nothing wrong with having that kind of evidence and protection for both the officers and the public. So as the chief said, if they're looking to speed it up, that's only good news for us on the roadway.
Well, Constable, thank you so much for taking out time for PTC and sharing all this information. Thank you so much and stay safe.
No problem. Thank you very much and stay safe. Thank you.